The Duke University men's basketball team just completed their tour of Canadian exhibition games, and the NBA world is absolutely buzzing about Zion Williamson. The hype train has been building since Zion was 16, already built like a truck and throwing down some of the most ridiculous dunks seen in a high school game in a long time. At the time, NBA fans were divided into three camps: those that thought he would bust, those that wanted to wait to watch some college games, and those that thought he would be the modern day Charles Barkley. The games against Canadian teams were our first glimpses of Zion against college competition, and my god did he impress. Now before we all board the hype train, I have to say that the three Canadian teams, aside from maybe Ryerson, weren't the greatest college teams of all time, and Zion will face tougher in the regular college season. But he still absolutely dominated every single player they threw onto him over the course of the three games. Williamson looked fluid, was way too strong for anyone to guard, and jumped out of the gym for dunks and rebounds. He also showed some shooting ability and made some really nice passes in transition and occasionally when doubled. Many who were in the camp of wanting to wait, me included, are now convinced that Williamson has serious superstar potential. Those who thought he would be a bust are reconsidering their thoughts, and those who are convinced of his star potential have been vindicated. This video will take a look at what kind of a player Zion is, what things I want to see from him this college season, what areas he needs to work on for the NBA, and finally, which teams will be watching him incredibly closely for the draft at the end of the season. And let's begin by analysing Zion as a player now. The first thing anyone will notice is the sheer athleticism of Williamson. He stands at 6'7", weighs 280 pounds, and has a vertical leap of at least 40 inches, with some reports suggesting it could be as high as 45 inches. The raw metrics are insane. Zion resembles an NFL player, but flies out of the gym like Michael Jordan, Zach LaVine, and prime Derrick Rose. Zion doesn't just have hops, he has raw speed as well, and can get up and down the court incredibly quickly for a player of his size. This makes him an absolute monster in transition. He is quicker than nearly all big men, and the guards who can keep up with him up and down the court are too small to stop him from scoring with ease. When Williamson gets out in transition, the only way to stop him is to have 2 or 3 guys collapse onto him and try and seal him off from getting to the rim. But this makes it incredibly easy for him to simply dump the ball off to anyone filling the lanes, and we've seen this with RJ Barrett throughout the first 3 exhibition games. The quickness also helps him out tremendously in a half-court setting. It might just be the inferior athletes, or it could be his insane pace. But Zion is blowing past defenders with ease and getting into the lane. He has a wicked fast first step, and once his defender is behind him, it is game over. He is too big and too strong to hinder in the lane, and maintains fantastic body control once in the air. This is another impressive athletic trait of Zion. He appears to be very agile in the way that guards and guys like LeBron, Ben Simmons, and Kevin Durant are. He can move laterally almost as fast as he can in a straight line to the hoop, and the most impressive of his drives for me have been when he hop steps through defenders and into the lane. This kind of move will be an easy source of buckets for Williamson, as defenders will want to try and draw a charge when they come over to help, and Zion will simply change direction, slip by them, and finish with one of his incredible layups. His finishes have been another area where Zion has been incredibly impressive. A lot of exceptionally athletic guys struggle in this area. You could see it with Jaylen Brown in his first few years with the Boston Celtics. He was simply amazing at blowing past weaker and slower defenders and then getting to the rim. But once he was there, he would frequently blow what could be seen as easier layups. Over the course of his 2 years in Boston, he has become better at finishing in those conditions, but still has a little while to go. Zion is simply amazing with his left hand and can finish with all kinds of layups, finger rolls, half hooks, and floaters in the paint. This talent makes him so much more efficient and better at scoring in transition and when he gets into the paint in the half court. But while his left hand is absolutely amazing, Zion is far more tentative with his right hand and seemingly shoots left-handed when he should try and finish with his right hand. This is one area that will get exposed in the NBA by better defenders. In college, his athleticism allows him to use one predominant hand and rise up over anyone trying to block his shot. But guys like Draymond, LeBron James, Clint Capella, Rudy Gobert, and Joel Embiid are going to punish anyone using the wrong hand to finish at the rim. This is not the toughest of fixes though, and NBA trainers will be sure to point it out to him as soon as he walks through the doors of his first NBA team, and I'm sure he's already beginning to try and work on it at Duke. The other only real deficiency of his game so far has been his jump shot. Zion doesn't have the smoothest of mechanics and also doesn't take that many jump shots in his game. But at the same time, the shots he did seem to take went in more than one would expect when seeing him let them fly. This potential to shoot is hugely important for Zion, as it will allow him to space the floor in the NBA when he isn't on the ball. But I would still like to see him work on the mechanics of his shot and try and make it a bit smoother. He also appears not to square up his body perfectly to the rim, and at times it appears as if his torso moves when he is rising through the air. These are all things that can contribute to an inconsistent shot, and Zion will benefit immensely from working on these things under Coach K and in the NBA. But these are just two small flaws in his game, and from what I've seen, Zion has a huge array of tools that he can use to succeed in the NBA. One of these tools is his postgame, something which I think Williamson didn't use enough in the first 3 preseason games. When he did use it, Zion was so strong in his positioning that he could catch the ball down low and take simply one dribble and find himself right under the basket. Zion has an awesome drop step and uses it to seal defenders and finish easily at the rim. He can also make a quick move from the post into the paint, where his size and quickness makes it difficult to stay on him after just one fake or pivot. But Zion didn't use these moves or go to the post as much as I would like against Ryerson. Now this might be because of spacing issues. Williamson usually shares the court with another big man, and all of the Duke bigs don't space the floor with threes. So Coach K might prefer to have Zion come off the perimeter and ensure there is more spacing rather than have them both clog the paint up. I think as the season goes along and Cameron Reddish comes back, we will see Zion play more small ball 5. He is such a monster on the rebound that he more than makes up for his lack of size here. Now I'm not saying that he should start at the 5, but I just want to see him play more minutes there per game while surrounded by shooters. If Zion is the biggest player on the court for his team, he's going to create a mismatch for his team every possession on the court. Teams will either put a big guy on him to match him for size, or a small guy who can match him for speed. Williamson will simply be able to blow by the big guy and will be able to bully the small guy in the post. This is the reason why people are so excited by his rare combination of speed and strength. It allows him to create a mismatch on nearly any player in the NBA. The number of players in the league that will be able to successfully match Zion on the court is so limited. LeBron James and Draymond Green are probably the only two I can think of with the correct size, strength, speed, and defensive skill required to successfully match Zion on the court. I think guys like Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and Kevin Durant have the size, length, and speed to keep up with Zion and bother him, but if he takes them into the paint and starts backing them down, can they really keep up with his huge strength and frame? And if he does miss the shot, Zion is such a monster rebounder and so strong that these guys might not be able to keep him off the glass on a lot of his misses. Now, I'm not saying that Zion will be unguardable in the NBA. He still needs to work on a lot of his skills, such as tightening his handle, refining some more post moves, and working on his jump shot, but he has the superior athleticism to be able to dominate if he can work on these things. But what is his position in the NBA? This has been the question on a lot of people's minds over the last few months. Some have argued that Zion could play the small forward position in the NBA due to his size and speed, but I think that this argument fails to recognise the changing landscape of the NBA. Positions have changed dramatically in the NBA, and teams will play people on the court together based on who they can defend and who is on their roster, rather than the traditional roles that players used to play in. For example, Zion would probably struggle to guard guys as fast as Kevin Durant and Paul George. And how about when teams play smaller guys at the 3? Tim Hardaway Jr. for the New York Knicks is just too different a style of athlete for Zion to be able to guard, and too quick for him to keep up with. And then it comes down to who is on his team. Is Zion going to be able to play the 3 next to Draymond Green and another center? How about next to Julius Randle and Anthony Davis, or LaMarcus Aldridge and Jakob Poeltl? No. These teams would be too big and too slow, and would have cramped spacing that would lead to difficulties in getting open in the paint. It is for this reason that I project Zion to be an almost full-time power forward who can also play small ball center. Here, Williamson will be closer to the basket and will also force teams to put bigger, slower defenders on him if they want to maintain normal positioning. And this is where the greater advantage comes for Zion. He is just as strong as players who are 6'10" and above and can simply blow by them and get to the rim. Go and watch some footage of Charles Barkley absolutely torture big men in the 90s, and you'll see what happens when a guy with Zion's speed, size and strength is guarded by slow big men. This will also force rim protectors to come out and guard Zion on the perimeter, which will help with his team's spacing. And on the defensive end, he has the strength to defend most fours in the league and could even get away with guarding less skilled centers for periods of time. This will allow him to play some small ball 5 in the exact same way that Julius Randle does. Just for a moment, imagine that he's drafted to the Boston Celtics. They could trot out a lineup of Kyrie Irving, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Gordon Hayward, and then Zion Williamson at the 5 for periods of time. This lineup would be incredible in transition, and Zion would be able to suck in defenses and kick the ball out to lethal shooters. But where he will really play this small ball 5 role is with bench units. Surround him with some shooting, a decent backup point guard, and then let him go to work against opposing bench units. These smaller, less skilled players will struggle immensely to guard Williamson in the open court and even in half-court settings. And because it's with a bench unit, Williamson having a high usage won't affect the rest of his team and the starters. It is pretty clear that Williamson is a once-in-a-generation kind of athlete, and teams will be incredibly interested in him in the upcoming draft. But the question on everyone's mind is just how high will he go? At this stage, I think his 2 Duke teammates might be ahead of him. Cameron Reddish is an incredibly polished 2-guard in terms of his skill set, and RJ Barrett is a rare combination of size, speed, handles, and finishing ability at the rim. And they seem to me to be the safer picks at this stage at the top end of the draft. But for me, Zion has the highest potential of any of the players in his draft class. I wouldn't be surprised to see whatever team has him the number 1 pick, taking him. At this way too early stage, Atlanta looks like the team with the highest chances of the number 1 pick, and I think it'd be a great fit alongside Collins, Trae Young, and Taurean Prince. His rebounding and size would fit well next to Collins, and his ability to shoot would ensure the floor is still spaced. But realistically, Zion is so versatile and athletic that he would fit onto any of the teams that are likely to be picking this high in the draft. How high he will go will largely depend on how this Duke season plays out, and who of Reddish, Barrett, and Williamson shines the brightest. And whoever does, it is going to be an incredibly entertaining college team to watch. They're one of the most stacked teams of all time, and all of the national attention will be on them, giving Zion Williamson plenty of opportunity to shine. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. And let me know in the comments what you think of Zion Williamson and how he will go about fitting in the NBA.